Tonight, Game 1 of the EDH season begins with a 4-man melee featuring some familiar faces. Prime Speaker Vannifar, Yawgmoth Thran Physician, Kairi the Swirling Sky, and partners Tymna the Weaver and Rograkh son of Rohgahh. Good evening and welcome to the SpellCast. We are your hosts, Caii and DJ, and we have a great matchup for you tonight. DJ, tell us about it.
As you said, Caii, we have ourselves a great matchup this evening. We have ourselves great 4 premier decks that are obviously tuned and ready to play. Let's break them down. First, we have Daniel playing Vannifar. It's a food chain deck that pretty much uses Vannifar to pot its way up to a win. Next, we have Peter, who's playing Yawgmoth, who obviously we all know is a sack, ping, and destroy everyone kind of deck. Powerful as it is as a commander. Next, we have Omar piloting the combination of Tymna and Rograkh. It's an ad nauseum deck that pretty much is to be able to draw all the cards it needs to be able to win the game and pretty much outlast its opponents. And last but not least, we have Caii playing itself a blue clone deck, which uses the legendary rule to be able to get all the value into the graveyard, and from that point on, being able to mill itself to win the game. Now that we know about what all the decks are aimed to do, let's talk about their starting hands. Caii?
All right, so Daniel, with his Vannifar deck, his starting hand is going to have Mana Confluence, Birds of Paradise, Mox Opal, Brainstorm, Fate Stitcher, Spell Pierce, and Pestermite. Peter, in his Yawgmoth deck, will be starting with 2 Swamps, a Carrier Thrall, Ophiomancer, Nest of Scarabs, Ayara, First of Loch Twain, and Sidisi Undead Vizier. Omar, with his Tymna and Rograkh Turbo Ad Nauseum deck, will be starting with Weathered Wayfarer, Entomb, Cliffside Retreat, Viscera Seer, Twin Flame, and Children of Corliss. And Caii, with Kairi the Swirling Sky, with his clone combo deck, will be starting with 4 Snow-Covered Islands, Boseiju, who shelters all, Mana Drain, and Academy Ruins.
That sounds like some really fierce opening hands, and it looks like our players are getting started.
Good. Let's get to it. Omar draws.
And plays a cliff-top retreat.
One more time.
Cliff-top retreat.
There you go.
Pete draws. Plays himself a swamp. Daniel draws. Plays a Mana Confluence. Taps that 1 Mana Confluence to pay 1 life and draws 3 cards with Brainstorm. He arranges the 3 cards in an order of his choosing, and from that point on, passes it on to Caii. Caii draws, plays in a Snow-Covered Island, passes it off to Omar. Omar draws. He plays a Weathered Wayfarer.
Love that card.
It's a pretty good card. Pretty good. Pretty solid. He then, afterwards, plays a tapped
Foreboding Ruins,
which is actually a pretty good card.
A Swamp for Peter.
Yep.
A Carrier Thrall.
Untap. Daniel untaps, and from that point on, plays a Reflecting Pool. Now his mana is actually fixed because now he has access to both his colors.
Right.
He taps the Reflecting Pool, so it gives him all the colors he needs. He then plays a Birds of Paradise. Passes it off to Caii. He draws. He then plays another Snow-Covered Island.
Shocker.
And passes it off to Omar, who then plays a Blast Zone. Taps all 3 of his mana for Tymna. With the first commander on the board,
First blood, here it comes.
Weather Wayfarer goes and attacks.
Swings at Caii for 1.
Loses 1 life.
He will remember that.
Definitely will. With the trigger off of Tymna, he's now actually able to pay 1 life to then afterwards draw a card. Already getting the engine going in this ad nauseum thing, being able to draw the cards he needs to somehow, some way be able to win this game.
Or try, at least. We'll see about that.
Pete plays another swamp, taps 3, and then plays Loch Lane of Thane.
He makes everybody lose one when his creature comes into play. Yep.
And from that point on, now with Daniel untapping both of his lands,
he passes turn to Caii, who plays the snow-covered island, and then passes to Omar.
Omar draws for the turn, plays himself a swamp. Taps the swamp for a Viscera Seer. Whether Wayfarer goes on the attack again,
he swings again at Caii. He spends the life to draw the card.
And from that point on, more and more of this engine is getting more and more online. Pete plays his 4th land for the turn, taps off 4, and Yawgmoth is now in play.
Or is it? Here comes Mana Drain with the remix.
That's a very harsh play. Now, Yawgmoth costs 6 instead of 4, pushing him back. Daniel ends up paying 3 mana for a Pestermite, which then comes into play, untaps his Reflecting Pool. He then, afterwards, draws a card. He taps the Reflecting Pool for a Preordain.
He flashed in that Pestermite at the end of Peter's turn.
It's a pretty good play. That is a pretty solid play. With the Preordain, he's looking at the top card. He then plays an island. And he passes the turn on to Caii. Caii untaps. Draws another card. Plays another snow-covered island. And with his first play of the game, with the mana drain mana that he got, now is actually able to play his commander.
Yeah, what you didn't hear there, DJ, is that Pete asked, "Why did you do that?" And Caii told him, "I needed the mana." So he went and needed it for Kairi. So
it's a solid play. It's a solid play. Now Yawgmoth hits Urborg hits the battlefield.
Go ahead.
And now with a Hope of Gearport on the battlefield as well too, this seems like attacks are coming. Because again, Omar needs to keep attacking to be able to use Tymna's ability to gain life and to draw cards. With no real good plays on this.
Omar swings at DJ, who blocks with the Pestermite.
And it seems like from that point on, it's an easy trade. Pete draws for his turn, plays another swamp, taps 5 for a
Sidisi, Undead Vizier.
He then sacrifices the
Sidisi? Oh no, his carrier thrall.
Yeah, okay. And from that point on, he does actually get himself a colorless Eldrazi spawn token because of it, and
he gets a tutor. Daniel taps 2
to be able to then play a Fellow Stone, which again still gives him all his colors, or at least blue. At least he then taps 2 for a Walking Ballista with 1 counter.
Okay,
that's a curious play. I'm actually wondering why he's only playing it for 1. Most people usually know that they play it. Oh, and that now
follows up with a Mox Opal. So, the end of Daniel's turn. Caii casts a Mystical Tutor.
Being able to go search up a Crackling Counterpart.
He's going to make a copy of Kairi. According to the legendary rule, only one of the legendaries can be in play, and Kairi's triggers happen when he dies.
Yeah.
So the deck is based around cloning and letting those clones die. So he's gonna copy Kairi. The clone is gonna die.
And from that point on,
and so he's gonna use the second ability to mill 6 cards and then return up to 2 instants or sorceries to his hand. Looks like he's going to return Cackling Counterpart and Mana Drain to his hand.
Looks like Daniel is trying to go look at what's inside the graveyard, clearly being able to keep track of what he has available to him. And with that being said now, Omar, he just seems like all he did was pass the turn and pass it off to Pete. Pete then afterwards taps 3 mana for an Ophalia Master, which allows him to be able to create a 1/1 sneak on every single upkeep.
As long as he doesn't have one already on the table, yeah.
And from that point on, he then afterwards follows up with a Mind Stone. Good draw engine.
I disagree. I think Mind Stone is trash. I had to say it.
Daniel then afterwards untaps his mana, draws for the turn, And
Pete gets his snake, which makes everybody lose one and he gains one.
mm-hmm.
That is a common theme you'll see throughout this game with Peter.
Being able to drain every single opponent slowly and taking away life as a resource is a very, very strategic play.
It is. It's just slow.
It is. It very much is slow. And however,
unless you can combo off, which I'm sure his deck is built to do. He's just not getting there yet.
Exactly.
All right.
So it seems like Daniel didn't really play anything past the turn, and now he passes off to Caii, who then plays an Academy Ruins for his land. Ooh, that's another great way of being able to return the value that Kairi does on the ETB state-based effect of it dying. It's another great card to be able to return. That's
right. And he passes turn, biding his time with open blue mana.
Yes, and we obviously know he has a mana drain in hand, so clearly he's waiting for somebody with a big enough mana spell. That way he's able to at least play multiple plays in one shot. Omar then afterwards plays a Plains for the turn, taps 3 mana.
He went for a Marsh Flats and got that. He played a Marsh Flats. Up, Cloudstone Curio, combo alert.
And there we go.
And there's the mana drain.
Yep, stopping it immediately.
Caii and Kairi seeing the future.
That's 3 more mana that Caii is going to be able to have available to him on his upkeep, which is pretty good.
Always.
He has already 3 mana already. Now he follows up with a Skull Clamp
and
decides to
swings
Hope of Girapur.
Swings at Peter with Hope of Girapur.
Ooh. Now.
And then he pays the life to Tymna to draw the card.
And from that point on, he's able to move on. Now,
and looks like he's going to sacrifice it.
Yes.
It's a little early for that.
Completely now shuts off.
I don't know if I would be doing that.
I would have definitely, from a technical point of view, I would have held that over whoever it is I attack over their head, knowing that, for example, if he had attacked Caii and being able to sacrifice before he gets the opportunity to be able to go cast a spell, because he already sees he's already being reactive. I'm curious as to why he decides to go after a person who's more of a proactive player than a reactive player.
And the player he's going after has a lot of creatures on the table right now.
He does, and that doesn't really speak well in terms of the spell slinging that he's doing. However,
let's see. We don't know what's in his hand. Let's see it play out.
We'll see.
Passes to Peter,
who then afterwards untaps all his mana. And then follows up with a Grave Titan.
Yikes.
Ooh. Then from that point on, it seems like Daniel had himself a response.
Is there a response? Oh.
Follows up with his own mana drain.
I'm seeing double.
That is 6 mana available to Daniel on his turn.
Hit him with the remix.
So that's 6 mana for Daniel on his turn and 3 mana for Caii. Oof, man, it just seems like they're just following up and taking mana.
So Peter takes it personal and swings at DJ.
At Daniel, and that's
Daniel.
That's pretty crazy. And it seems like from that point on, now
swings at Daniel. Daniel takes it, or is he?
No, he afterwards.
Oh no, he's reacting
with the rest of his mana. What he does is that he adds counters onto Milwaukee Ballista, which then he uses to be able to shoot down certain creatures. That way, he's able to take less damage. So all he takes is the damage from the visitor.
So he killed off the snake.
Yep.
But he didn't have a response for cEDH. And now, next upkeep during Daniel's upkeep, Peter gets a new snake.
Yep. However,
land for Daniel,
which is a forest. However, at that point, what he's doing now, he has the 6 mana available to him, which he was keeping up with a counter, which is actually very, 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 very smart. It allows him to be able to know, guess what? He has X amount of mana available to him. And it seems like he's trying to do this to be able to maximize his play, which is indeed a real smart thing to do.
That's the goal.
He decides to play his commander, Vannifar.
Prime Speaker Vannifar.
Which is if he has a means to be able to give it haste, then obviously he'd be able to use his ability now. But it just seems like he's just doing setup. So he's playing a Fate Stitcher. And it just seems like that's it that he does. It just seems like it's a good setup play. And now he's passing it off to Caii.
And during DJ's end phase, Caii casts Cackling Counterpart again.
Ooh,
there's oh no, Spell Pierce. Oh, Force of Negation. Oh, negate. Oh
my gosh, did you?
Damn, Daniel.
Let's hold on for a moment and see that stack. Oh my goodness gracious.
Ouch.
Let's go follow up. The first thing he decided that Caii
Cackling Counterpart,
which then follows up with a Spell Pierce, which is then afterwards hit with a Force of Negation, which then follow up with a Negate. Whew. Goodness gracious!
Yikes!
That if that is not a counter war, I don't know what that is. That's pretty wow.
Yeah, that's salt worthy.
Yeah. Goodness.
All right, so Caii starts his turn.
He now has a 3 colorless mana.
He's got that 3 floating. Yep. Beseiju, who shelters all.
And that land is a
2 and the 3 colorless floating for Time Warp.
Time Warp. Ooh.
He wants to take all the turns.
Ooh, man.
He begins that next turn, untaps.
I think maybe Daniel should have saved some of that mana for save the counter spells for that. That would have been.
Yeah, that definitely would have been. It looked like Caii cast the Time Warp without worry of repercussion.
He really didn't.
Yeah.
He follows up with Consecrated Sphinx.
Oh, and then swings at DJ again.
Ooh, goodness gracious! That's. Daniel's life total is getting pretty low. Everybody is at least double than the amount that he has. So that's. I'd hope that Daniel has himself a plan here.
Oh, and Caii is drawing all the cards with Consecrated Sphinx.
And from that point on, it seems like Omar then plays his second commander, Rograkh, and from that point on, uses the Skull Clamp, sends it back to the command zone, being able to draw 2 cards. Again,
Caii draws 4.
I mean, at this point, Omar doesn't have a choice. He has to be able to keep digging for an answer. As much as he understands that he's giving Caii the ability to be able to draw cards, he's an ad nauseum deck. He has to keep drawing more
There's
cards.
no other option. Unless you can tutor up, you got to get to the cards you got to get to.
Exactly. So let's see, continue what he's going to go do.
So 2, 3 for what? What do we got? Oh, what is this?
Praetor's Grasp.
Oh, he wants to try to cut Kai's nuts off. That's what he wants to go through the deck and take something that is most important to him.
Which is actually a very smart play.
It could be. It depends on how Caii built his deck.
Not just that, but it also really depends on how much Omar knows his deck. That's another important thing.
This is true.
He would very much need to be able to know what type of cards would be beneficial to him. But even then, now with that being said, it seems like he's taking the card, and now Pete gets to draw. Seems like Daniel's emphatically saying something.
He's a bit animated there.
He taps his mana. He's able to then tap his mana, and let's see what he's going for. He recasts Yawgmoth again, and ooh, I'm telling you, this now the engine's
cause for concern.
The engine is truly humming now. He sacrifices a creature and puts a 1/1 kid. Decides to then cause everybody to be able to lose some life. And that life total that Daniel has is getting even lower and lower.
And he plays Butcher Ghoul, which is another combo piece.
Oh my goodness gracious. This is getting serious now.
It is.
This is getting serious.
Still draining people 1 life at a time.
Now,
and of course, Kai's drawing way more cards.
Yeah, it seems like Daniel's trying to figure out a means. And it seems like, oh man, Pete is going after Vannifar. I mean, it makes sense. That is a key piece in Daniel's deck. Very much a key piece in deck.
So in response,
he decides to use the Walking Ballista. What is he targeting? Oh, he's actually targeting one of Omar's pieces. Oh man, goodness! I think he actually targeted the Vizier Seer to be able to kill it.
That's right, because he only had 1 point of damage, and that was the only thing that could have
be able to go kill it.
That would have been able to do any kind of help at all. That would help at all.
Seems like Pete now
and Pete passes.
And it seems like now it goes back to Daniel. Daniel draws himself a card. And of course, Pete on that upkeep is able to create a snake.
Gets his snake. Everybody loses one.
And now
it's time.
This is the part where we start to see the pod chain. We now see a Chakram Retriever. From that point on, we then afterwards see a
Fate Stitcher unearthed, which Caii foils with a foil.
Oh my goodness gracious!
Gets the Great Oak Guardian.
Yeah, being able to go get his 6
which will untap his Prime Speaker.
All his creatures, actually. It gets to untap all his creatures.
And then he sacks that to go get the Protean Hulk.
Ooh, now
there's problems.
Now there's problems. And because of the counter, now Fate Stitcher, which was in his graveyard, he now can unearth it again. Caii right now is trying to go get context of what it is. Because of the unearth, it actually gets haste.
Oh. And Pete.
In response, it seems like Pete is now using his commander to be able to go knock out some of the key pieces that Daniel has, which was that Birds of Paradise.
Yeah, it uses the Butcher Ghoul and Yawgmoth to kill off the Birds of Paradise.
Ooh, goodness gracious. Taking off more and more pieces. However, let's see what Daniel does. The Fate Stitcher now hits the battlefield. It has haste, which means he gets to untap Vannifar. He then afterwards uses Vannifar to sacrifice Protean Hulk. So first and foremost, the key pieces that he's getting right now is an Elvish Mystic, a Quarian Ranger, a Memnite, a Phyrexian Ravager, and a
Dryad Arbor.
Ooh. Okay, so to give clarification on this, it seems like what he's trying to do is take advantage of Azuri's ability of being able to put X amount of counters based on creatures with power 2 or less. And obviously with Protean Hulk, with the last 3 creatures, all of them are 0 cost. So it means it actually counts towards the 6 cost for Protean Hulk. So I'm actually curious as to how he's going to win. So let's see.
And he got all of those creatures in addition to Azuri.
Yeah. And the last piece, and here it is. This is the means in which Daniel is trying to pilot his win.
That Sage of Hours, let's say, is a problem.
Yes. With that Sage of Hours hitting the battlefield, that means that is the last amount of experience counters needed. Meaning that if he goes to his combat step and puts those counters on Sage of Hours and removes them, he now has infinite turns. So
if he can pull it off.
Let's see if he's able to pull it off. Let's see. Let's see what everyone does. What interactions do we see here? It seems like Omar is trying.
Caii has pointed out the Sage of Hours.
And from that point,
and Peter has decided to act on it.
And he's completely taken away that Sage of Hours. Now Daniel's got to figure out a way of being able to get back into this game. He untaps Vannifar by using Quirion Ranger. Taps Vannifar once more again. Sacrifices the Elvish Mystic. Let's see what he gets. He does a corridor, which is a corridor monitor, which allows him to be able to untap. Again, he's potting his way up. And it seems like there's a response from Pete. What is he trying to do? Is he trying to target one of his and he uses the rest of his stuff.
Wow. Sacks his board to kill off Vannifar.
Goodness gracious. Talk about being able to
that's
scorch earth.
Oh, extreme times call for extreme measures.
And that's it. That just seems like all he's able to do is put these
kind of took the gas out of his game turn there. Passes to Caii, untaps and draws.
Let's see what Caii does. Caii plays himself a Snow Quarter Island. He taps 3
with Beseju. Quasi duplicate.
Ooh.
Another clone spell. Clones Kairi. Lets the copy die immediately.
And let's see.
And opts to mill. So he's going to mill 6 and bring 2 instants or sorceries back.
Again, this seems like
Then he takes, looks like Quasi-Duplicate and High Tide.
Ooh, High Tide. That is a great combo piece. And I don't think there's much in gas.
Mana Vault, which he taps immediately.
Give himself the 3 mana. Let's see what else he's going to go do.
Felwar Stone, okay.
Then taps with the Felwar Stone because obviously he has access to it.
And he taps it for blue for High Tide. Now those tap for 2 each. And the Academy Ruins.
Let's see. What is
he going to do here?
What is he going to do here? He has himself all that mana available to him. And obviously with all the cards that he's drawn, because how everyone else is able to draw.
He's got a ton of cards in his hand.
Let's see.
He casts Turnabout, untapping all of his lands.
Goodness gracious.
And they still tap, all those islands still tap for 2. He can recast Quasi-Duplicate, copying a commander. The commander will die. He's going to mill 6 and return 2. He's going for it.
He's definitely going for this win. He's definitely going for this win. And I don't think there's much interaction on everyone else's part due to the fact that they were trying to stop Daniel earlier in the previous turn.
Right, DJ. He returns Quasi-Duplicate and Time Warp.
This is
bad. Looking bad for the rest of the table there,
this
DJ.
Looks like Kai's on his way to victory on this one. It looks like Kai's very much on his way to victory on this one. If there isn't much in regards to interaction here or somebody being able to at least pick out the main commander, I don't see.
Somebody's got to do something or this is going to go very bad.
He taps another, but he
cast the Time Warp.
Taps even more mana.
Cast the Quasi-Duplicate again.
And it just seems like this loop is going over and over again. And he just seems he has himself the mana to be able to then keep getting the key cards back he needs to be able to win the game.
Yeah, his engine is working as intended.
Yes. With the amount of value that he's putting into his graveyard while also being able to keep triggering that state-based effect, this is
and Jace, Wielder of Mysteries.
There it is. That's the win. If he's able to get
finishes that turn, begins his 3rd turn. 2nd turn? 3rd turn?
This is second. Seems like it's a 2nd turn. But even then, this is key. With the win out with Jace, Wielder of Mysteries on the battlefield, if he's able to put all the cards in his graveyard, which he has the ability to.
Let's see. It's looking like a win for him, but nobody else has given up yet. High Tide again. Quasi-Duplicate again.
Ooh. Again.
Mill and return 2.
If he keeps milling, all he needs is to be able to at least have something as simple as an opt.
Time Warp and Quasi-Duplicate again.
He just has the ability for him to be able to win this case. He really does. He has the ability for him to be able to win.
I sense a pattern.
It is, but it's a consistent pattern. And obviously it's the one pattern that's going to allow him to get to victory because it just seems like it's being unimpeded. There's nobody to stop him.
I mean, people have open mana though, so maybe they're just waiting for waiting for him to get to the end.
Maybe. They're probably waiting for key moments. Let's see. And from that point on,
tapping some more mana. High Tide again.
And it seems more and more of this.
Time Warp again.
Oh, my goodness. His deck is getting pretty thin, if you can actually notice.
Yeah. Those Statue of Liberty dragon shields are looking a little light and a little light in the library.
Oh my goodness gracious! I mean, it just seems like he's
High Tide and Quasi.
Yep, and it just seems like he has more and more
doesn't
value.
Need any of those cards. He's in a +1 Jace to draw and discard.
Yep.
Or to mill and then draw.
And it just seems like now he has a grip full of cards, and he probably might have the ability for him to be able to win.
He has the extra turn on the stack.
And now he gets to be able to untap.
It's turn 4, I believe.
Yep. And from that point on, he was able to just maintain a 7. It didn't matter. As long as he has to keep 3 cards
and a Reliquary Tower after he's already discarded 30 or 40 cards.
And that's gratuitous, clearly. I mean, you just needed only key cards. Just having all the cards now is just being greedy. It's just being greedy.
High Tide again.
And it seems like more and more of this win con is getting closer and closer.
I hope someone has something, because if they don't, this is
a clean victory. This would be a clean victory for Caii, and he'd be able to very much get there. And
for a pretty unknown commander, I haven't seen anyone play with Kairi as a deck.
Well, for starters, it is one of the new commanders that did come out of Neon Dynasty, so very much.
But people are quick to jump on commanders. People are pretty quick, and I've seen people who built the other dragons from that set.
That is true.
The red one, the white one. I've seen them play those.
Yes. Even the black one, which is technically abusable. Very much.
Well, as you can see, several are abusable.
And it seems like now that Omar is trying to take a look at the Wielder of Mysteries.
Oh, what's he got up his sleeve?
Is there something
there?
Is there finally some interaction?
Show me something.
Let's see.
Omar is asking for explanations.
And it just seems like from there,
he counted. Somebody asked how many cards were in his deck, and I believe he said 6.
Oh man, this is it. And it seems like now
Omar, unprovoked, is casting Angel's Grace. Angel's Grace. I don't know if that's the right timing.
I don't think that's the right time
for that.
Granted, it is actually.
He cast that in response to the quasi duplicate.
It does, and you know what? Honestly, that is actually that's a silver bullet to Kai's deck, actually.
Could be.
It very much could.
If played at the right time.
Yes, very much so. Very much so. However, I don't think, based on timing rules...
I don't think he played that the right way.
I don't think he played that the right way neither. I mean, that was, granted, a silver bullet. I don't think anyone would have been able to see that coming.
So he cast it in response to the quasi-duplicate. The quasi-duplicate will still happen.
Yes.
He will mill the 6 cards. He will return 2 to his hand. Jay says, if you would draw a card while your library has no cards in it, you win the game instead.
And that's
so Caii can mill those 6, not activate Jace this turn, return Time Warp to his hand, take another turn, and on the next turn, the Angel's Grace no longer applies. He draws for his draw step, and he wins.
The misplay on that, goodness gracious!
I think that's what's about to happen.
And it just seems like that's probably
that is exactly what's happening.
It seems like Caii very much he could see that workaround. He could see that workaround immediately.
For sure.
He could see that workaround.
Even if he would have had to cast the Angel's Grace. As Caii said, I'm going to +1 Jace to draw this card with no cards in my library.
Yes, because
then you cast Angel's Grace, then the win no longer applies, so you have to lose by default.
Yes.
He just cast it at the wrong time. Caii returns Time Warp and quasi-duplicate.
Going for the next turn.
He casts that extra turn, and the extra turn.
The minute he goes for draw on that turn, immediately it's it.
It's game over. He wins.
But Omar right now is trying to figure out, and it seems like he's very much trying to go discuss on whether or not if that actually triggers or not. He's trying to actually see.
He didn't, but the thing is Caii didn't activate the Jace.
He didn't.
That's the thing. Caii didn't activate the Jace.
It seems like everyone right now is trying to explain to Omar
it was just mistimed it.
He mistimed it. And you know what? That literally would have been the silver bullet.
And then it would have been the rest of the 3 guys fighting it out to see who remains.
Oh my goodness gracious. This is wow.
That's a strong deck though.
That is a strong deck. And then you know what? Honestly, knowing that Omar indeed, that he was able to draw due to the ad nauseum aspect of his deck and being able to ensure that he had key cards, it just so happens that he just didn't know how to be able to use it. And you know what? It's unfortunate. However, at the same token, too, it is a lesson for him.
He knows how to use it. He just didn't apply it at the right time. That's all. Focal points. So that game had a lot of action, not so much interaction.
It did, actually.
And it seems like there was a lot of wasted movement, wasted spells. When Caii used his foil on Daniel's Fate Stitcher, I felt like that was a total waste because Daniel just recast the Fate Stitcher from his graveyard.
And not just that, Daniel's counter war with Caii in regards to using all of those 2 counters for 1, especially knowing that Caii was able to get it back immediately right afterwards was a complete waste. There was enough interaction in the game, but the problem was saving the interaction for key moments.
Right.
Like, for example,
for the proper targets.
In the beginning of the game, they were doing that well in terms of the mana drain.
Right.
Obviously, being able to ensure that you go after big spells and use
the commander, Caii used his mana drain on Yawgmoth.
On Yawgmoth, while Daniel then used it on the Grave Titan. Again, using it on key moments to be able to help accelerate their play. It wasn't until later on where things got a bit more wasteful. They weren't being mindful of their interaction. And at that point, with all that interaction gone and all the resources wasted, it immediately gave Caii the win.
I agree. That Kairi having Ward 3, I think that helped more than we can tell.
Yes.
Especially with when you got Yawgmoth on the table and he likes to kill things 1 point of damage at a time.
Immediately.
Ward 3 means every point of damage you want to deal him, you have to pay 3.
You do.
Which is unfeasible. Exactly. Which kind of left Kairi out there on the table by himself. Not to mention it's a mono blue player, mono blue deck. Everyone else at the table is presuming he has a bunch of counterspells in his hand.
Yeah.
And lack of interaction, like I said, a Consecrated Sphinx sat on the table during a whole rotation of turns.
Actually.
And people just let Caii draw all those cards.
Do you know what's really interesting as well, too? Do you realize that once Kairi got onto the battlefield, it didn't leave? Vannifar had gotten knocked out. Yawgmoth had gotten knocked out.
Right.
Got countered, mind you. And then afterwards as well, too, even Tymna, although Tymna did indeed stay on the board,
it was doing minimal, but compared to the other threats on the table, it wasn't doing much.
Tymna is only good with the amount of creatures that player has.
That gets through.
Exactly.
The amount of damage he can do on a turn-by-turn basis.
Honestly, it may have been in that. However, it wasn't able to dig far enough due to the fact that, again, Yawgmoth was able to pick off creatures, and obviously being able to limit its gameplay didn't allow it to be able to do its turbo ad nauseum means.
And bless his heart, Omar tried.
Yeah.
He Praetor's grasped Kai's deck.
Yes.
And I think he pulled Cyclonic Rift. I think that's what he exiled with Praetor's grasp.
Too.
So he tried, and he had that Angel's grasp. He just should have waited for the next activation that Caii was going to do.
Interaction is indeed key and important, but it's also about being able to time it correctly. And you know what? Obviously, this game shows more than anything, timing is important.
It is everything.
So,
but with that said, thank you for tuning in. Come see us on our next episode. We're going to work on New Capenna next. We're going to have some New Capenna decks next time. And thanks for stopping by. Yep. I'll cut that out.